Remember to breathe, cause it'll take your breath away when the engines cough and you blast off. Ignite the night with a firecracker flash. Remember to live, cause you're done.
Hello, I'm AxelMC131 and welcome back to Kerbal Space Program. And it's a beautiful sunset as the sun disappears behind the mountains to the west of Cape Kerbal. But here we are at the Space Center, and can I middle mouse click to reset the camera? No, I can't. Oh well, just gonna have to manually drag it around. If you remember from last episode, we accepted 2 contracts, each to ferry 3 tourists to their destinations, all of which are suborbital spaceflight on Kerbal. So we need a vehicle to do that, and the plan that I have in mind, I'm just going to run to the spaceplane hangar here. The plan that I have in mind is something that I'm going to build. I don't know if we're going to be able to do it yet, but we can certainly try. Here we are. And I'll try and put a picture up on screen of a vehicle that I created in the previous versions, called the Skycat, and was highly successful for getting the high altitude science things, like the contracts that said, you know, get a crew report or a temperature scan at above, 18 kilometers, where jet engines don't really function. And it had a pair of jet engines and then a rocket engine once they ran out of intake air, and it then had plenty of fuel to fly back on the jet engines once it had completed its mission. And we're going to try and do something similar to that, except hopefully a little bit, probably lighter and more powerful would be nice. And we're also going to have to put crew cabins on it. So I think that we can get away with starting with the Mk1 cockpit, and I want to put these little service bays on. Okay, so this is a very weird creation that we have managed to come up with using the parts that we have available. Something tells me this won't go suborbital. It might go high, but I don't think it's going to be going suborbital. Actually, we have monopropellant, which we should take out because we won't be using it. But what we have basically is we've got, let me just turn off the mass display. We have these 4 jet engines here. 4 basic jet engines with a little bit of fuel and wings, and then these back wheels, and they're all on these decouplers here. So they will actually split off when we want them to. Then we have 2 FLT400 tanks with a single swivel, and then those will eventually decouple, and we have this crew compartment, which will hopefully continue up into suborbital space. The plan I have for an ascent trajectory is basically we take off horizontally, and then pitch up to as high an angle as these engines will manage. And then when they start running out of thrust, we pitch up to almost straight up and enable that engine, and ditch these side engines. And hopefully this bit will be able to return stably back to the ground, and this will catch it before it hits the ground. Well, stop it from hitting the ground too hard. And we have another little wing panel here, which is just what I managed to do with the small amount of parts that I had remaining. And that may also act as like a buffer or a heat shield. I don't know, but I'm going to call this is a prototype, but I am going to label this the, what shall we call this? Well, it's basically a sabot plane. If you don't know what a sabot is, it's actually a kind of bullet used by tanks, which is basically, it's has two segments. The first bit fires like a conventional bullet, and then it has like a secondary detonation which fires the actual projectile even faster, and it's absolutely ridiculous. But I think that that's kind of what we're going for here. So this is going to be the Sabot X1. It's a prototype. I'm going to save this. We're going to... Jeb, are you ready to fly this thing? Alright. Because we're going to do some simulations here. I should point out, look how far back the wheels are. That's where the mass is. Oh, man. But we're going to do some simulations here. I am slightly worried that when we ditch that, actually... Let me just test something, because the center of lift is going to be suddenly way forwards. I'm not sure what we can do about that. I mean, I guess we can move this further back. Maybe we just attach it straight to here. Let's do that. My offset thing is not working very well. Alright, well let's do that and hope that it will still take off. But I'm going to do some simulations here, which is basically, if it doesn't work, I'm just going to revert to the flight. I'm not going to bother landing again. Oh, what? There we go. I said take the monitor propellant out. Okay. But yeah, so at the moment, that's empty. Okay. This is what we can do. So let me just make sure our staging is correct. We want this to fire as we ditch those, or before? I think as we ditch them, and then that will decouple, and then that will... Okay. The Sabo X1, let's take this thing out on a test flight with Jeb on board. Okay. And here we are on the launch pad, and I forgot that it's actually night, and it's about to bounce. There we go. Little bit of a bounce. Oh, it's a little bit wobbly there, actually. Alright, I've got no idea how this thing is going to behave, by the way. Let's turn the lights on, why not? Okay, are you ready, Jeb? Let's spool up these engines. And yeah, just to reiterate, by simulation I mean that if things go wrong, or I get to the end of the flight and things go well, I'm not going to try and land it again, or save anyone. I'm just going to revert the flight back to the spaceplane hangar, so... I'm only going to be doing that if I actually declare that it's a simulation. So let's spool these things up to about maximum, I think, because we're going to need all the power we can get for this. Turn the brakes off now. Come on. I also want to disable your control for these, actually. Why did I not do that earlier? There we go. Alright, this thing is moving up slowly. Let's check our lift vectors. This is a weird-looking thing. This is going to be one of the weirdest-looking planes I've ever built in Kerbal Space Program. Are we getting lift vectors at all? Sort of. We're going to have a very high takeoff speed, though. Come on. Come on. Of course, we've also got the reaction wheels here running. Wow, this thing's just not lifting off the ground. This is a heavy vehicle. Okay. Actually starting to veer slightly off the runway, so let's just hold at this position and fly off the end. There is... We're now doing 125 meters per second, and we have not gotten off the ground. And there we go. Come on. Come on. Whoop. Oh my. Right. That was interesting. Turn this back off. That is somewhat stable. Wow, look at the difference between our pointing vector and our prograde vector. 10 degrees. This thing does not produce lift. I did not expect it to. It is not supposed to. Oh boy. Right, well, I guess we'll find out how this goes. So, yeah. Realize that I don't actually have any yaw control on this, which is going to make life interesting. There's no rudder. It's all roll and pitch. And it does like to roll. And it is accelerating very slowly. Which is kind of worrying. Alright, well let's just see how high we can go with this thing. Well, something tells me that this won't work. We are not even at 2 kilometers yet, and we are not even holding speed at just under a 20 degree angle of pitch, and we're already losing thrust on these engines, and that number is going down. You can see the fuel flow's going down. Okay, well, let's just test to see what happens when we decouple this. So, 3, 2, 1. It flips. Okay. Well, that probably wouldn't have worked anyway. Alright. Time to stop this. Let's just check that the, this would be safe. Cannot deploy while stowed. Oh, okay, you're going to be annoying like that. I've got to open that first. That is something I probably should have expected with putting it on top of the service bay and then offsetting the service bay. Offsetting the parachute into the service bay. It's usually what happens. Oh well. Will it actually be slow enough to not explode? Oh, 89 meters per second. Yeah, it'll be fine. And it's perfectly level as well. How awesome is that? Alright, let's revert back to the spaceplane hangar. Now, I would have liked to be able to do this way, but it looks like we might not be able to. Which is a bit of a shame. Not with these engines anyway. They're simply not capable. That's really annoying, actually. I was hoping that we could have done better than that. Alright, let's try making a rocket instead. It's really tempting to try and do that inside the spaceplane hangar. Because the problem that I had when I was creating the Intrepid 1, the first vehicle, the one that went to orbit last episode, was that a lot of the designs I was trying with the solid rocket boosters, you may have seen me flick out a few of those in the build time-lapse, was that although I wasn't using very many parts for them, they were too heavy for the actual launch pad. But because I've upgraded the runway, having said that, it's cheap as chips to upgrade the runway and the launch pad, so I may as well just go and do that. Alright, let's go and upgrade the launch pad and then design a rocket. Upgrade! And let's actually time warp to the next morning. Hup! There we go. Resume. Alright, because I like doing my launches during the day. It's quite hard to see otherwise. But I think I'll go with a similar, like, cabin design, and basically put that cabin, instead of on a plane, on a rocket. And see what happens. So let us go and grab a similar thing. Alright, so this is what we have ended up with, and I'm labeling this the Sabo X2 just for the lack of a better name. And I was originally going to go with just the crew cabin area on its own, but I decided to add these little wings in the Dream Chaser type configuration, so we can kind of do a reusable re-entry vehicle which actually has some glide capabilities, and maybe glide it back towards Kerbin. We'll be on Kerbin the whole time. Back towards the KSC. But we're using essentially exactly the same launch vehicle as I did for the Intrepid, just from memory, and with slightly different fin arrangements, so at every stage the center of lift is behind the center of mass, which, as you know, for designing planes and rockets, you need so it doesn't flip over backwards. Now, we still have unused monopropellant, so let's take that out. We have parachute issues. Why? Crew assigned, but no parachute attached. Oh yeah, but it's in the same stage. Electric charge storage but not generated. Hatch obstructed, that's fine. Empty crew cabin, that's fine. Alright, so that ignites first, then that, and then that, and then that, and then that. Right. So let's make sure Jebediah is the only one on board. Yep, and we're going to do another simulation for this. And you can see I actually rotated it to face that way, and we're going to do this in space shuttle style takeoff, which is going over backwards. And maybe we'll end up doing like a loop or something. We are going to try and go straight up. Well, we'll try and go mostly straight up, but I'm just hoping that this thing survives re-entry. It should. The crew capsules tend to be very good at taking heat, and we won't be going too fast. So let us... How are we doing? Let's just enable SAS. Okay, and once again, this is a simulation, so I will probably revert if something goes wrong or if I finish. Got full thrust, and 3, 2, 1, go. Okay, now we don't actually have as much mass on top of this, so it's got a much quicker takeoff than the old Intrepid. Let me just bring up the aerodynamic forces just to see if anything starts happening. It's looking pretty nominal so far. We should have incredibly good control because we've got the fins at the front here. You'll notice also that I made the fins at the back, those just non-moving ones, so that we don't get too many oscillations. But man, we are going real quick. Okay, I probably should have thrust limited this, but it's gonna ditch, so I'm gonna throttle down. Yeah, in fact, we're braking Mach 1. Okay, let's throttle down for when the swivel comes into play. Out of fuel. 3, 2, 1. There we go. Okay, swivel's just gonna maintain speed for a little bit. Look at that drag vector. Oh man, not really what you want, but okay, there we go. So we're just accelerating as we use up our fuel. Alright, let's see. We just want our apoapse to just get out of the atmosphere, and then we should be good. Let me turn the lights on here just because I think the lights actually look really pretty on the crew cabins, especially the new Mark 1 parts. Turn the lights on in there even though there's no one on board. Also, the crew cabin, I know, can only take 2 people, and the cockpit needs a pilot. This doesn't have any unmanned capabilities. I know. This is designed to take 2 tourists at a time, so once I have a design for this that works, I'm going to be taking them up in 3 flights. Okay, we have used almost half our fuel. Let me just turn the lift factors off again. And our apoapse is almost up to 45. There we go. This is pretty good, actually. It's very stable so far, which is good, especially since it's going straight up. Let's try pitching over a little tiny bit. Here we go. Nice. We're on orbit cam now. For our apoapse to get up to about 75. I don't want to push it, because I don't actually know what this thing's going to do when it hits the atmosphere again once it's left. Okay, there we go. 72, 73, 74, 75. And there we go. Cut it there. Okay. That's pretty good. Let's just rotate a little bit. And ditch that. And now this thing is going to continue on its own. And hopefully not die. It's actually kind of cute. Look at that. Look at it. It's like the tiniest little space plane you ever saw. Right, let's just time warp till we're out of the atmosphere. Watch the stars appear slightly faster than they normally would. Okay, we're now out of the atmosphere, so let's just rotate around into our re-entry position, which is going to be something like this. There we go. And hopefully it'll hold position. And time warp again 10 times, 50 times, and going back down, and we hit the atmosphere. Okay. I'm going to need to bring up the temperature overlay and the aerodynamic effects overlay. And this is what I usually do in these simulation type of things. And we're going to time warp until we start seeing things happen. Basically the way this works. So I'm looking for lift vectors, drag vectors, drag vectors. Hello? Drag vectors. It's trying to pull it up. They're automatically stabilizing, but it looks like it's going to try and pull down. Yep, our pitch is higher than we can maintain, and we're going down. Right, let me just hold this. I'm going to try and just hold it to see how high it'll go. And we've actually got lift vectors there coming off the body, not just the wings. Okay, we're getting a little bit of heat on the front bit. There's our shock heating. There we go. Just a little bit of that. We're slowing down now. And we're experiencing 4Gs, 5Gs. Okay, I'm going to let that go. Nope. Okay, so apparently if I let that go and just let it drift, wow, okay, it slows down too slow, if you know what I mean. Wow, that G-force. Okay, we need, like, air brakes or something on this, because we don't produce a lot of drag. Look at our speed. We're actually not producing that much drag at all. Try and pitch up. Come on. Wow, this thing is just like a missile. Come on. Pitch up. Pitch up. There we go. Okay, parachute is now safe to deploy, but I'm going to try and glide it down as much as I can. Okay. Man. So we need to do something about that. Something to slow it down before we actually hit. Maybe we keep that fuel stage, actually. Maybe we keep the rocket stage, and then, let me just pitch this up a bit, see if I can flare. Keep the rocket stage, and then use the rest of the fuel in it to slow down. That could work. Okay, we're down to 110. Going to deploy this parachute. There we go. Pull me back. And there we go. Nice. So that will work. And our speed is nice and low that these shouldn't explode. I can't actually remember what the crash tolerance for the crew cabin is, but I know that that the cockpits are usually about 40 meters per second. So I think the Mark 1 cockpit might be a bit slower than that. Okay, we're going to revert back to the hangar, to well, the vehicle assembly building in this case, and try and make some changes. 40 meters per second and 40 meters per second. Nice. Okay, so hopefully this works. What I've added is these two little elevons, which should deploy in opposite directions like that when we ask them to, and act as air brakes. So we're going to try this configuration. So let's go ahead and launch this again. Still got Jeb on board? Yep. Okay. And make sure our staging's correct. Oh yeah, and I was going to thrust them at this a little bit, down to about 90 should do it. There we go. And let's launch this again. Okay, here we are, and during that loading break, I realized my mistake. I don't know how many people are yelling at me in the comments right now, but I just realized that I put these on the decoupler, not on the actual cabin, so we would lose them. So I have a very simple fix to that, because there actually isn't space at the back of the cabin to put them many other places. And that is flip the decoupler. Like that. And then I'm going to flip these. Like that, and then readjust their rotation. And hopefully... now they deploy the other way, of course. Just make sure they just deploy. There we go. And those will be our air brakes. And if we just adjust them up a little bit, and they hopefully won't clip into the fuel tank there. And it should now say that we have a decoupler attached the wrong way. Yup, that's alright. I've done that deliberately. Okay, save and try again. Alright, here we are on the launch pad, and test 2 of the Sabo X2. Jeb's on board. Let's keep this at about, maybe half throttle should do it. Okay, in 3, 2, 1. That's a little bit neater. Alright. I am worried that, of course, even though we've thrust limited it, it's still got the same amount of fuel, so it just didn't take longer to burn it. So I'm thinking that we may end up breaking Mark 1 a bit early anyway. But I guess we'll find out. Let's just see what kind of drag we get. I'm just going to do a flat test. They're actually producing differential lift vectors, which is pretty funny, probably because of the angle that they're at. But if I just deploy them... whoa! I'm just watching my speed. Yeah, it really slows down. That's good. That's what I want. Okay, let's keep our pitch up. I could actually enable yaw for them. I actually probably want to disable all controls for them. I could leave yaw enabled if I wanted, but I think I'm not going to. Oh, nice. Okay, that was good. We didn't quite break Mark 1. So we're just about to hit 300 meters per second. There we go. I'll try and keep this thing straight. Alright, we're going well so far. We're at 10 kilometers up. Alright, going to cut the engine there. We're at 76 kilometer RAPWAPs, and I think that will do. So we're just going to drift up and just poke our nose out of the atmosphere and then drop back down again. So I'm just going to actually get into that kind of orientation that we want to be, which is going to be a slight angle, because we did go up at a slight angle. That's just so I don't really drop things on the launch pad. Technically they despawn, the debris despawns before it actually drops low enough to hit the ground, but I like to do that for my own peace of mind anyway. So let's just time warp out of the atmosphere once again. There go the stars. And we're in space. Okay, so that part of it works. We have about just over half of one of these fuel tanks left. So I'm actually just going to disable... You may have noticed me disable fuel in empty tanks before. and that's because it gives me a more precise readout of the fuel here. Like if I enable both these tanks, I've got that much fuel left from both of them combined, but if I disable this one, I've got a much more precise draw gauge over there. So anyway, we're going to just time warp until we start coming down again. There we go. Okay, and I want to force this into surface mode. There we go. And I'm going to see how long we can hold this position. Now, I am curious because I think my center of mass is somewhere up here at the moment, and I'm worried that if I deploy these at the moment, it'll slow me down from up there. And that'll make me flip over, and I don't want to do that. But I'm hoping that I can hold this position for a bit, even while we get drag on the wing surfaces. I don't know, though. I'm going to see how long we can hold it. But I'm going to wait till we get down to about 50 or 45 kilometers before I start burning the engine. I just want to keep us slow. I might just burn it at a very low thrust at the moment. 20 kilonewtons, yeah, that'll just slow our descent a bit. Using fuel at a slow enough rate, so this is gonna give us about 40 seconds of burn. Oh wait, no, sorry, twice that. It's gonna give us about 150 seconds of burn, so... Sorry, that was my maths failing me. But we're going to want to throttle up here. Yeah, we're hitting just above 800, so we're getting down to 36. So shock heating is going to start taking effect. And I kind of want to slow down before we hit that, because that's where the atmosphere is going to start hitting us. Okay, 7, 14, 12, 11, 10. Drop down to 700 meters per second. There we go. Now we're into the 600s. 650. We're going to use as much fuel on this stage as we can. 600. Throttle up some more. Down to 20 kilometers. Starting to get some lift vectors on these. 450. And there's fuel out. Okay. Whoa! That was unexpected. Probably should have flipped it first. Deploy. Do we get drag? Yes, we do. Hey. Nice. And we're actually slowing down just like that. Now this is more like it. Let's try and control this. Let's go and drop this on the runway. Whoa. We still get lots of G-force when we turn like that, and that's quite understandable. Right, let's retract these, actually. Because, of course, when we get the action groups, even the basic ones, we can use the brakes action group to toggle these, and that's just so much simpler, just tapping B. Okay, let's try and hold a 45-degree descent. No? Can we not even hold that? Come on, we can pitch up more than that. There we go. No, it just wants to drop. I'm glad I put lots of power in this, because I'm using the reaction wheels, probably. They're probably having more of an effect than the wings. But we're in 45-degree descent, and we are actually losing speed. And I think that's because of those fins being... Yeah, you can see them being horribly angled. Well. Okay, we're coming up now, so just going to pitch up until pretty much flat. Looks like we're going to try and touch down in the water, maybe. Are we going to make it to land? Oh, maybe. Let's just flare these. Come on, glide just over the land. And deploy these again. Slow us right down, and deploy the parachute. There we go. Pretty. Okay. And then we can probably shut those down again. Alright, so let's just make sure that this doesn't explode when it hits the ground. We're going to land right on the beach, which is pretty cool. And theoretically this thing should be absolutely fine in a water landing if it can do this in a surface landing. Whoop. Well, that was me not slowing down the time warp fast enough, but the only thing that broke there was the decoupler, and I was just thinking as I came down there that if anything here is expendable, it's that decoupler. But that's pretty good. Check it out, we've got a little wiggly plane. Whee! Ah, reaction wheels, you make me laugh. No, we can't roll over. Alright, but that seems to work quite well. So I think we're going to try and implement this and put some tourists in it, but I think we'll do that in the next episode. This has been an episode of building and testing and designing this vehicle. So here we have it, the Sabo X2. Technically this is the Mark II as well, or Mark B. I'm just going to put Mark II in it because the first one of these was the one without the braking fins, and this one seems to work a whole lot better. So, yep, that's what we have here. But I think we'll be properly flying this out with tourists aboard in the next episode. So until then, guys, thank you very much for watching. I've been AxelMC131, and I'll see you next time.
Where was I when the rockets came to life and carried you away?